Perfect.
Tell my boy Rich. Where is the live link? I'll make my media guy do it.
All messages are visible. Perfect. Okay. If anybody that's in the chat right now, if you're able to go ahead and just comment to see if you can hear us, just go ahead and throw that in there right now. All right, we got some. Perfect. All right.
Nice.
Perfect. We'll get started here in we'll give it like 30 seconds. We're through. Wow, it's getting spicy already. 5x5. Perfect. Perfect. So, okay. So I've got Cody here with Genesis Arms. Cody is the owner of Genesis Arms, and they produce an incredible product, which is, I think, revolutionary and very applicable to what we have side, the civilian side, and obviously the combative side, the military side. So, I just want to welcome Cody, and yeah, thanks for doing this live with me. Long time coming.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had some scheduling conflicts. We tried to do it earlier, but I'm just glad we get to do it now. I really appreciate the opportunity, obviously, to reach your audience and do a live. We've really never done lives in the past, so this will be an exciting opportunity to interact. But those not familiar with Genesis Arms, just kind of give a high level overview of what Genesis Arms is, why we started, and what we build. We are a partnership, so I'm not a sole owner in the company. One of the principal of the company is actually the founder and head engineer. So he originally set out to build an AR shotgun. Traditionally, those are Turkish shotguns. They're novelty items. They're not reliable. They're not adopted by any credible federal or military service. Because they're not professional tools. They have a short lifeline, and they can be finicky. The goal was to build the Glock of shotguns, so to speak, something that you can pick up. It's as reliable as your AR. It has the same manual of arms. Shotguns, legacy systems, whether it's a Benelli M4, a Mossberg 590, they're tube fed. They really are unchanged since their inception, and they kind of went out of favor with the popularity of AR-15s and their ergonomics. And as that happened, it wasn't due to the capability of a shotgun, the ability for it to be lethal, the ability for it to be used as a tool, whether it's entry or hunting or whatever your solution set is for a shotgun. They're very capable in that, but ammo management was difficult. If you live in winter climates and you got to hand load one round at a time in gloves and in the snow, it's not realistic. So enter Gen 12, and the Gen 12 is really the first professional grade mag fed shotgun. It's built on an AR-10 lower receiver. It's short recoil operated. There's no gas system to be tuned. We were federally adopted under a contract for breaching in 2023, and we continue to pursue and lead in this space for 12 gauge for the professional user. And obviously, with the current market space of international conflicts, our weapon system, to our knowledge, is not in that. But we are actively looking at it and preparing ourselves, obviously, domestically for our domestic forces, whether it's law enforcement or military, to be able to have a 12 gauge with improved ergonomics, better recoil management, and shorter overall length. If people haven't had the chance to check out our PDS, it's our personal defense shotgun. It's really a first of its kind. It's a intentionally built suppressed shotgun. It's a 5-inch barrel. When we built it, it was really intended for breaching. The suppressor was to reduce the pressure to the shooter, not necessarily the DBs, but just the overpressure that is exposed to a breacher that's inherent from short-barreled shotguns. But ultimately, what we found was our 5-inch barrel suppressed shotgun was performing in pattern testing with buckshot equal to an 18-inch Remington 870. And accuracy out to 100 yards was equal to an 18-inch barrel as well. So we lost nothing. Minimal feet per second. We're still about 1060 on FPS with low recoil slugs. Those are 1300 feet per second on the box. So still a very lethal projectile at those speeds, and it really transformed everything. And then the last thing that we did is for all of our demos, we bring out our full auto kits. And so there's really no other shotgun in the market space that has a full auto capability for 12 gauge. And we're really just the only ones doing it. And we do it as a testament.
And already run 250 shells per the manual, and it's impressive. We've already started filming the B-roll for it. No baffle strikes. Answer that question that's there. And it's interesting because we did a side by side comparison with the different shotguns that I had some of the guys that I shoot would bring out, and they were like, we were shooting slugs at 100, and then I threw in some high velocity slugs in there, and they're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm like, here, try this, because I was like, I could do this all day. And the I think the eye-opening factor of how much that suppressor, the design of the shotgun, really allows the shooter to keep going. Like I honestly, the first day that we shot, I shot 100 shells through it, and usually after about 25, I'm done. Um, so as far as beating up the user, it is super soft. And honestly, one of the guys is actually doing a review on a 308 from a company, and he's like, the recoil impulse is relatively the same, and it's very repeatable. Like it's not erratic. I have the same type of there's gonna be recoil, but it's very repeatable. It's very rhythmic. I can get back on target because I can kind of time that reticle to get back on target faster. And so, what I want to talk about real quick is a lot of people, especially in the law enforcement realm, we're seeing shotguns being phased out. It used to be in every patrol car. Now they're kind of going a rifle in every patrol car. What is the application for shotguns historically that have been honestly a household type of task for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, we'll look at the main categories. So, primarily in professional arenas, they've been relegated as a tool. And the main reason for that is they're long, they're cumbersome, and reloading them is just, it takes so much proficiency. And generally, like in law enforcement or even in the military, uh, to become super proficient at a shotgun to a level of like a competitive shooter, agencies and military just honestly, they're not going to give the training time or ammunition or schedule to provide you that type of capability. So, in most combat shotguns have been relegated to door breachers or as a secondary tool, not a primary, um, historically, at least in the modern days. For law enforcement, though, shotguns have always been very good because they can stop vehicles, they can open doors, they can stop people, very efficiently and very capable. Shotguns. Um, in an active shooter situation, you're able to breach the door and enter a room and have that capability of lethality with one shot stops, where you don't necessarily have that with an AR-15. AR-15s can do one shot stops, but historically, what we've learned over time is, you need to do multiple rounds center mass until the threat is stopped, and so that's well into 5, 6, 8 rounds, statistically. Not saying you can't do it with one, just saying that statistically that's the reality. But statistically, for a shotgun lethality, it's one. You do two, it's really, that's because maybe it was a poor placement and they still have an active fight. Um, so, but they have gone out of favor because of ammo management, um, and then just the proficiency in the manual of arms. People have just gone away from it. And then, as you mentioned, recoil. Currently, as I travel the country all this year, we've been talking to law enforcement agencies specifically that still use 870s. And many don't know this, but Remington is no longer a company. So spare parts, those type of things, are going to be drying up and hard to get. So agencies are looking at alternatives. I've had many conversations, and the biggest thing that I get out of that is manual of arms is very difficult for us to keep proficient with our officers, and we lose a lot of cadets or trainees because of that. or they're not able to manage the recoil, or they're not able to pump the gun. And this is due to a lot of different reasons. It could be a fair style person, it could be, gender based, it could be a whole bunch of things. Not everybody's 6'6" and 300 pounds, right? Like that's just not the reality to manage a shotgun. When they shoot our shotgun, they instantly, like you did yourself, are like, I could do this all day. Most of our customers commercially, when they go to the range, they'll take 250, 300 rounds of shotgun and they will shoot all of those in a day. The most I've ever shot over a 2 day period, 2 days or 3 days, maybe it's 3 day period, was 9,000 rounds on one platform. That was split up with one other person. It's a lot of rounds. I had no bruising. I had full range of mobility in my shoulder. We were shooting double out buck for that. So, we really have broken a code. And it's one of those things, and I like to say this often, which is to hear is to doubt, to see is be deceived, but to feel is to believe. And you really got to get out, get behind the gun, and experience it for yourself, because it really is. When you shoot it next to any other legacy system, you're just, especially pump guns, you're just like, holy cow, I can't believe I thought that was comfortable to shoot at one point.
Yeah, it's almost like I mean, we were running the pumps side by side with this thing, even with semi-automatic this thing, and I say everybody shoots ARs with the group here, and everybody I'm sure here shoots ARs, but it was just like he was like, "How do we?" He's like, "Oh, never mind." Like he just went and just loaded it, and it was just so simple. The downfall for standard typical pump action forms and the manual of arms with a regular shotgun, it's a whole class. Like there's whole courses just to get proficient, and so um, yeah, it's definitely a game changer. And I used to help out at a gun shop, and there was always those Turkish, AR-15 shotguns for $200, and every time they go out and try to shoot at the range, and they come back like, and this thing has a catastrophic failure, or it's jammed in there in some crazy way we don't even know how. And so you really do with AR-15 style shotguns. Historically, it was always a gimmicky item that was kind of you get what you pay for. Whereas with this, I was talking with the guys. I'm like, this thing is not choked yet, and it's like you sometimes we even have issues with a pump where you kind of get the shell stuck and you really got to try and rack it out of that thing. So I think it's one of those things where it's kind of revolutionized the shotgun because now you're taking all the negative characteristics that you used to have with a platform like that, and now you're making it like a battle rifle essentially.
Absolutely. I mean, we coined the term. We use our slogan as America's shotgun. We manufacture everything in North Idaho. That's where we're based out of. So, we source all of our product, all of our materials. Obviously, we understand the international world of things, but we buy from an American company right here in the States. All of our vendors, our subs are all, right here in America. Nothing's coming from overseas and into our guns. So, it's America's shotgun. And to that, we really wanted to have a solution set that offered parts, serviceability. If you have one of the Turkish shotguns, trying to get those parts and replacements can be a challenge. And like you said, it is a novelty. It's not a professional tool. And we wanted to build something that you could purchase and have as a legacy for, your forever. The Second Amendment, it's not just, buy guns, it's have that. And then for future generations of your legacy to have that as well. So we just wanted to build the best shotgun out there, and it has to be, it is more expensive than everybody else. I get that, and that is some of the complaints. But honestly, in this case, you really are paying for what you get. And in the competition space, I've done several demos over that. We've had guns out for test and evaluation, and they run those things dirty, and they throw them in barrels, and they shoot them hard and fast all the time. And we have got nothing but great compliments back from them, as our gun just continues to run and perform as they demand on it. So that's what everybody else would expect.
Can you talk? Can you talk a little bit about also? one things that shotguns historically have always had as a huge pro is ammo. How do I say it? Multi-role capability. So like you can have lethals, non-lethals. How that is a really good thing for people to consider.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at shotguns, they're super versatile. During Vietnam, they experimented with like flechette rounds to try to get under the in the jungle lane, the foliage of the jungles and have penetration still through that. We have lead shot, steel shot, tungsten shot. We have shot cups which constrict and hold together shot. So whether that's in a bird shot, so you can get like turkey loads, you get greater distances, or you're running a buck shot or a number 4 buck. There's a whole bunch of variety out there, and also that's also led to a giant challenge as a mag fed shotgun, because as we know, it's a rim cartridge, so it's not designed to be put in a magazine. So we had to overcome that with our patented magazine design, and that really helped out. We use Walmart ammo for most of our demos and our range stuff, but you can run anything you want really through our system, with an exception of less lethal. We have a dedicated less lethal gun. Uh, so the reason for that is less lethal ammunitions only run about 300 feet per second at the muzzle. There's just not enough energy in those rounds to unlock the rotating bolt and then create energy to throw the bolt rearward. So it just doesn't, you can't do that, but you can still shoot them in it. You'll just have to manually cycle. But that was the benefit of the shotgun, especially like when it comes to breaching domestically, for law enforcement. They have liability issues. You can breach with birdshot. You can breach with buckshot. You could even breach with a slug. However, depending on what's beyond that door, you may be inadvertently causing injury. And so that's where law enforcement got specialty rounds that are frangible. So they are designed to penetrate the door, defeat the wood, the lock, and then completely fragment with the intent to, if on a search warrant or arrest warrant, the breacher shoots and a child was going up to the door and it was unforeseen, or somebody was unconscious on the other side of the door and they didn't see him. We don't want to cause injury to those people. So specialty rounds have been created for that. Some of the more insane stuff we've seen in the past, when the AA-12 was in military testing and stuff, I mean, they had 12 gauge grenade rounds. It'd be so awesome if we could get some of those with our full autos at 15 round drums and have a shotgun grenadier. But so there's the options are out there. And what we found is it's really what the user wants. Personally, I would just run. I mean, I like just shooting slugs. The system itself is super capable, with rapid rates, follow up shots, its precision. One of the things that was really interesting is, it looks very similar to an AR-10. It feels very similar to an AR-10. When we mounted an EOTech on there and shot a zero at 50 yards with slugs, and then we walked up to 5 yards and did ocular cavity shot, it was the same holdover I used on my AR-15. So there was no change in my hold points with that zero and those rounds. So now I don't have to think about, the position of my dot to my target. Is it different? All that kind of stuff. If you're shooting clays or you're shooting flying objects, whether, I'm not saying that you should go out and shoot drones down, but that is obviously an international threat. But those are just like birds in the sky. So if you're doing that, the EOTech with the donut and the dot in the middle, it actually helps give you a little bit of a lead, a reference of what a pattern shot might look like. You got to do a little testing yourself for, what does your pattern look like based on your zero and the munitions that you're shooting. But TSS, some tungsten super shot, we've gotten some pretty good results in our initial testing. But range is obviously a limiting factor when we're shooting some of our shorter barrels. But we got a solution coming for that as well. So, but it just the platform has always been intended to be a breech load system or a pump system. So you're manually loading those. It's not an auto load system. And so what you'll find across the board is that generally high brass ammunition, more high quality ammunition, more expensive ammunition is required to run a lot of the semi-autos. Not that, low brass can't run them. It's just that it can become a little more finicky. in performance. We didn't want to have that delineation, and with it being a short recoil system, it self regulates that recoil. So if you shoot buckshot, birdshot, and slugs, it's going to be marginally different between those. You'll notice it, but it won't be like a strong, significant recoil difference between the three, which obviously lends to a more enjoyable shooting experience. And you can use birdshot in your training, and you're running a very similar recoil and pulse, so you're not having to learn a whole new feel or recoil pattern of a gun.
The matter is, you get a high quality eats anything. Like you said, you get almost your ammo from Walmart. So like that to me is huge, and I think it's something that for a lot of people to think about is like the versatility of what that thing can eat. Whether it's rifles, pistols, you see a lot of high dollar systems usually only run high dollar ammo, and so that doesn't really give you a lot of options. And so you know, get from the cheap ammo to be able to train to be able to hide defense rounds for applications that are real world. So um, I think one of the things that you were talking about that you guys have out is you're talking about range. You have a kit or something that you guys are coming out with that helps with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to highlight on something else you said, when we made the earlier statement, we want to be the Glock of shotguns. We want to have that same reliability that's known in that system. When you pick up our shotgun, we want to make riding shotgun cool again, right? Like people, when I was a kid, used to be like, "I'm riding shotgun." That's what I want again. I want people to be riding shotgun with Gen 12s. But internationally, ammo is not as specific as with like domestic. We got Winchester and Federal. They make great ammunition, but there is Zala, and there's thousands with Rio, and those specifications and tolerances for their ammo. It can have a wide range within just one box. And so knowing that, we wanted our system to be able to go international, whether the gun was in Africa or wherever, Brazil, it didn't matter where it went. If it was for a professional user or even a citizen in those countries arming themselves, they're not going to have just Federal or Winchester ammo, and it would be unfair as a company to say this is what you have to do. So we wanted to be able to bridge that gap across all the ammos. I will say, out of all the ammo that we test, there's only one brand that continues to have a bane of our existence, and it's Fiocchi. And it's only a couple of their stuff. It's just there's something with their base wads, their powder loads, something. It's something in them. So that's the only one that if you get it, you like shooting it now, you can run it through our gun. If it gives you good performance, then stick with it. But it really is the only brand that we kind of shy away from. The other one that's kind of all over the map is Winchester Universal, and that one's also a Walmart brand, but that one is wildly different between each case of 100 that you buy. So just keep that stuff in mind when you're shooting. Obviously, range ammo is different than your home ammo, so just be smart about it. It's like your duty ammo or your range ammo that you'd use on your AR-15 or something else. But so for range and distance, so we got this little thing right here, and obviously, due to requirements and regulations, I can't show this on a gun. But essentially, this goes on the muzzle. So it's a QD sort of. It's our proprietary thread goes onto the muzzle, and this gives you a choke. So now this is just a Remington choke. It gives you about 5 inches of extension. So these are interchangeable, and this can be on your muzzle. So we're getting about 60 feet per second increase. And this is on a 10.5 inch barreled, whether it's one of our firearms or SBSs. And this is going to prove to allow people to increase their patterning, shrink it and get it to the desired size that they want, and improve a distance. So using this system on a 14-inch custom build we did just for testing internally. We're just trying to figure out, is there an optimal barrel length, whether it's 14, 13, 10? What's the difference between a 10 and a 14? Is it 16? There's all these lengths that we have to experiment with to try to provide the best solution. But with a 14-inch and this choke kit, you're right about an 18-inch overall length, barrel length. And, at 60 yards, we're able to knock down a 5-inch drone at that distance with reinforced battery. So, super capable system. I think it's going to lead itself for next year, both in the commercial market, whether guys want to take their 10.5s and run them in competition, which I think would be pretty cool to see. Be a whole different segment. It's kind of, you know, uh, it's way different. It's going to be a little disruptive to see at first guys running the SBSs for 3 gun, but you'll be able to do it because you can get that tighter pattern on our system. Um, uh,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or if it's professional too. So there's professional applications, obviously, like we talked about with drone threats growing both domestically and internationally. We want to have a solution set for our platform to offer.
One of the things that I've seen, especially kind of shifting, you're talking about drones and patterning. That was a huge thing that I'm looking for, and we've already done a pattern test with all the different shotguns and a 20-inch barrel, and so it's crazy seeing them trying to bust that thing up, but it's super effective. And so one of the things that have you guys been able to see testing or heard anybody from departments or whatever that have tried it out as far as on an actual one? Um, Someone says I'm cutting in and out. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, perfect. So, um, one of the things that I'm thinking about is like we talked about getting repeatable hits, very rhythmic. Whenever I have a threat like that coming towards me, especially if it's got an explosive on it, I don't really want to spend time trying to lead it, and nor do I carry so much about like how tight of a pattern it's going to be. Over, I want speed. Like I just need as much screen of lead in the air as fast as possible in a relatively accurate zone. So that way, in those last few moments, I have a high probability of success. And so you're seeing guys trying to shoot at it with AKs and like doing all this, and they're getting schwacked by these things. But I mean, like now with drones and trench warfare, like where do you see the shotgun going from here? Like you think it's really going to make a comeback? Because I honestly, I think there's going to be entire MOSs and jobs that are going to revolve around that system.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I've been pressing that TTPs, your tactics, trainings, and procedures, are really written around a platform, right? What tool am I using, and how do I get to use it for a mission set? And I believe that our shotgun can change those TTPs. I have a state patrol agency, their SWAT team for breaching purchased a stocked 7-inch suppressed Gen 12 as their breaching tool. And the reason they did that is that they don't want to transition between, one platform to another, because historically you have a rifle, draw your shotgun, breach, put it back, draw your rifle. And they're like, we don't need to do that. I mean, if our round can breach a door, it can stop a threat at, 10 yards. And with some testing, that's not necessarily true depending on the ammo, but there is ammo available where you can have a frangible breaching round and then still use it as a precision tool for short distances, 20, 25 yards at most, and have relative accuracy. So that's a whole change in TTP that agency is already looking at. So I believe that people will start to see the benefits. Again, they got to get their hands on it, they got to shoot it, and they will easily adopt the program of the Gen 12 because it's easily adopted, cuts down training time, sight picture, sight alignment. One of the big things about striking objects out of the sky is, unless you're a bird hunter, you don't ever train that, right? And so that whole process is difficult. Well, if you have a platform that you're more acquainted with and you're already comfortable with, then that might accelerate that process as well. Um, Obviously, that space, it kind of reminds me of the early days of the GWAT time. On my deployments, we had little jammers called the Chameleon on our vehicles that stopped IEDs. Well, pretty soon the chameleons weren't even 100% because they just did a hard line to an antenna, and the chameleon had its dome of protection, but then the antenna was outside of that, and we were at risk. And so we still had to be vigilant, still had to look and still be scanning, and look for signature marks and all the other things. I think as this new evolution of warfare with drone threats, yeah, we're going to have overlapping fields, but nothing is going to replace matter replacing matter. Two objects can't occupy the same space at one time. So if you have a last ditch effort, would you rather be holding a jammer that it has an effective range of 30 to 50 yards and all it does is cut its feed and it still continues to fly in the direction or falls out of the sky at that with a payload? That's a big question for me. I'm like, I mean, I'd like to have that in addition to a kinetic option, which I'm able to hopefully detonate it at 50, 60 yards rather than have it continue to travel towards me and then land at 20 yards. You know, uh, so I think that as we become more sophisticated, I think that people will see the benefit of it. I have it's domestically, I've run into people that have been in contact with people overseas, and intimate with that conflict. Um, and they every time they shoot our gun, they're like, this thing needs to be in the hands of people trying to shoot down drones. They call it the drone guy. So we made a YouTube video about it last year. I think it's over 31 million views. We even made a T-shirt, the Drone Slayer T-shirt. So I think that we have a space for it. I think we're in development. I hope for next year we'll have a lot more data points, with our, patterning for the choke kits, maybe specialty ammunition, maybe that we're working on. So there's a bunch of stuff that we got in the works for that itself, and some of that stuff might be able to translate over to the commercial market too for hunting as well. So we'll see. But one more note, since I brought up hunting, longer barrels on shotguns historically is to assist in the aiming. It doesn't really do a whole lot for the patterning. The choke system does that, right? So people have this misnomer that I got to have a 26 or 28-inch barrel. It's not necessarily true. It might be in some cases, but overall, that's a misnomer. Where like with your rifles, the longer the barrel, the greater feet per second. More than likely, you have a higher level of precision at greater distances. It's not necessarily the same for a 12 gauge. So that's why we're intimately looking at 10 and a half inch, 7-inch guns. We're even going to play with that 5-inch gun with a choke kit. Not going to be my first. Not going to be my first pick, just based on the muzzle blast and pressures that you're exposed to as a shooter without being suppressed. But the 7 and the 10 for sure, I think will have some good results. But we'll see where this ends up in the end. So, we've been I think we actually probably popularized shotgun suppressors with our very first videos online using the Rex Silentium prototype cans, running full auto on our 7-inch guns. And we just really, our platform, it enables itself to be a functional suppressed shotgun. And suppressed shotguns just hadn't been practical. And so, the silencer Cosalvo, it had limitations on what munitions it could run. It could, they say on the box, don't shoot rifled slugs through it. Well, that's what I use to shoot at distance. So it needs to be able to do that. But in the end, we needed a professional grade suppressor, something that could be mass produced. And so we solicited quite a few different suppressor companies, but Huxworks actually came back eager about the project and open minded. And it was awesome because it was perfect timing for us. And we got a sample of their stuff. And then just a couple requests from us, and we had a working suppressor that we started running, high round counts, getting them hot, suppressed, full auto dumps, tungsten rounds, breaching rounds. I mean, we've shot everything we can through this thing, and no failures. I even overshot it. I went up to 3,000 rounds on the can without any cleaning whatsoever. And that was mostly birdshot, but just to see what happens when you gum that thing up with a bunch of plastic and lead. Because most people don't know this, it's a shotgun. So if you think about what you're shooting, as the base wad or the gas seal or the lead shot is going through the barrel, there's a ton of friction and a ton of pressure, and in that you'll have vapor created, which is going to be plastic and lead or plastic and whatever you're shooting. And so under condensation, it cools inside the suppressor and it gums up. Well, that same thing is applicable to gas systems. So we don't have a gas system. We run short recoil. The barrel moves. So we don't have to worry about a finicky gas system that we can tune, have to tune, like on a Kalashnikov style setup. So that's why we can get away with a 5-inch barrel. But you do got to service your suppressor. We recommend anywhere between 300 to 500 rounds. Take it off, get a pick. No, a little bit of heat, and you kind of gum out the plastic and lead out of there. But the can, we have an exclusive on it for distribution this year for 2024. Our aim is to have that solidified again for 2025, but we'll see at SHOT Show if we're able to do that or not. It's been very popular on our system, and obviously other people want to put it on their other shotguns, which we more than will, support that effort as well. But yeah, so it's been an awesome opportunity. And the biggest thing about the Huxworks suppressor that we wanted to tackle was not dBs. Everybody wants to talk about decibels. That really wasn't what we were aiming for in this specific suppressor. You'll notice on our can it has a crown that's to be used against a door as a standoff device, or as a core sample in a very personal space. So we were looking for more about pressure reduction. And I know I mentioned it earlier, but so people just checking in, it's 60% reduction on our system. That's just massive. So if you take the suppressor off and you shoot it, it can become very uncomfortable in the 5-inch platform. But if you throw the suppressor on, you can shoot it all day and it feels great. It's not beating your head up. And the same goes for the 10.5. When you run the 10.5 unsuppressed, very comfortable. The pressure is not nearly as bad as it is with the 5-inch, but when you suppress it, it just creates a very comfortable shooting experience. And if you're doing any indoor shooting, you definitely want to look at getting that lineup in your kit.
Yeah, I know when I was running it, I noticed two things. One was how soft it was, which I think with recoil reduction, it was pretty, like I said, it was insane. The other one was also overpressure. Like usually you get some, especially with those overpowered rounds, the slugs, rifled slugs, or 3-inch or shells, you'll get some pretty good overpressure, and especially if you're in a confined space. So, thinking about reaching, then utilizing that instead of switching the rifle, going straight to a CQB application if you need to take a shot, you're not over pressurizing everybody in the room, and yeah, you have a successful mission and a lot of headaches. So it's really impressive. Also, the design when I was taking this thing out, like it's so simple. It's the core itself is really advanced looking, but it's just super simple to be able to take that out to service, which is the other half of the battle as far as any type of weapon system you guys have upcoming. That you guys maybe I know you got Shot Show right around the corner, but maybe some things that you might want to give a little peek or hint about of things that you guys have in store.
Well, the most immediate, obviously, is everybody's in the market space is Black Friday. So we're going to have some limited availability of product there. We're going to be running a sale on all of our accessories. We got a couple new things that we're dropping that are just kind of more lifestyle stuff. Some non-metallic knives, some more swag, that kind of stuff. So, but for SHOT Show 2025, we look at expanding our lineup. We want to offer, right now we're not offering the 5-inch suppressed with just a regular stock, so that will be available. We'll have our regular 7-inch gun with the PDS stock on it, so the PDW style 7-inch, so a more compact 7. So if you don't want it to be suppressed or you just want it to be real small, then we'll have that lineup as well. And then we'll have our sporting purposes choke kit available as well, moving into 2025. And I think that probably will round it out. The other things that we've wanted to do in the past and just production, luckily is just buried, just building shotguns. But we dabbled on the 8.6. We had every intention of bringing the 8.6 to market. We still have a 308 upper receiver group that we're looking at. But like anything else, Genesis Arms is innovative, and we could make just a regular 308 that everybody's barrel goes in and everybody's handguard goes on. But what does it solve? That's the question. And so our engineering team, is looking at some alternatives of fixing some inherent issues within the 308 space that have been out there, which is, some of it has to do with reliability, feeding, that kind of stuff. So we have some things that we're working on in that space. So I don't know if 2025 brings that to market, but we're definitely looking at, expanding those horizons as well.
So, what are some ways?
Absolutely. Well, luckily, genesisarms.com. It's our main website. It's the best way to get a hold of us. We have a contact submission. We also have a phone number listed. We do our best to answer everybody's calls, get back to everybody as fast as we can. Believe us, we're a small team, and we get inundated daily with customers asking questions, looking to do something. So that's one way. We're pretty active on Instagram as well. And then we have our YouTube page as well, where we'll start dropping more information about capabilities, comparisons, all that kind of stuff will be what our YouTube channel's for. But Instagram is probably our most active place where you see a post pretty regularly and can interact with us there. But if you want to talk to somebody, it's the website, genesisarms.com.
Detail that I wanted you to cover specifically about drone operators as a new concept that I think actually on the mill side is even becoming an idea that might be a reality here soon. So, Cody, thanks again for coming on the live, and for everybody that joined us, thanks again for checking this out. This will be saved, so if you came in late, you'll be able to rewatch the live. But guys, make sure you go out and train to be the eternal asset. My name's Eric, and I'll see you on the next one.